Welcome to This Explainer. If you're a C-suite executive or a marketing leader steering a brand's digital presence right now, well, you already know the ground beneath us is shifting. Today, we're bringing you a highly focused, premium briefing on arguably the most critical paradigm shift in digital marketing today. We're talking about generative engine optimization, or GEO. We're going to unpack exactly what it takes to secure your enterprise visibility in this new era of synthesized search. Look at what's happening right on screen. The traditional search engine results page, that familiar list of blue links we've all relied on for decades, is dissolving. It's being replaced by a dynamic, real-time AI interface that generates a synthesized, multi-source text block. And this new reality is honestly quite jarring. Search engines are no longer sending users to your website. They're actually consuming your website for the user. And the impact of this shift, it's absolutely staggering. 83%. That's the global zero-click search rate the second an AI overview pops up on the page. I mean, think about that. That represents a burning platform for enterprise brands. Traditional organic traffic, which was the absolute lifeblood of the early digital economy, is literally evaporating because user intent is being solved directly in line. Okay, let's dive into this. To help guide you out of this crisis and equip you with a modern playbook, we've got a tight executive briefing structured into 5 parts. First, the 2026 paradigm shift. 2. Enter generative engine optimization. 3. The evidence-backed GEO playbook. 4. Building model perception. And finally, measuring your AI visibility. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, the 2026 paradigm shift, from outbound intermediation to cognitive retrieval. So we're moving from what we call the indexing economy, which you see on the left, all about classic SEO, link directories, sparse keyword matching, and trying to optimize for click-through rates, over to the answer economy on the right. This is driven by large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, and Google's AI overviews. It's a whole new world of generative engine optimization, conversational synthesis, dense vector embeddings, and, crucially, optimizing for citations. The game has entirely changed. To put a finer point on the danger of ignoring this, consider this number. 61%. That is the dramatic drop in organic click-through rates when an AI overview appears above the fold. If you're relying solely on traditional SEO right now, you are essentially creating a massive AI blind spot for your brand. You could absolutely dominate standard search results, but if you're omitted from conversational AI responses, you are completely excluded from the modern buyer's consideration phase. Which brings us directly to Section 2. Enter generative engine optimization, the framework for 2026. So what exactly is GEO? Well, generative engine optimization is basically the practice of structuring your content, your data, and your brand signals in a way that makes large language models actually want to use your brand as the primary reference in their answers. Because remember, the goal here isn't ranking on a list anymore. It's about achieving share of synthesis. You've got to give the machine exactly what it wants to read so it trusts you enough to quote you. To do that, you really have to understand how the machine thinks. Modern AI search runs on the RAG framework. That's Retrieval Augmented Generation. And it happens in 3 steps. First, query reformulation, where the system actually rewrites the user's prompt to make it more search-friendly. Second is vector retrieval, where it pulls highly relevant semantic chunks of text from its index. And finally, synthesis and citation, where the language model reads those chunks and generates a coherent answer. So to earn that coveted citation, your content literally has to survive 2 phases. The retriever has to find it relevant, and the generator has to trust it enough to use it. All right, let's move to Section 3, the evidence-backed GEO playbook, empirical findings from the Princeton KDD 2024 study. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we aren't just guessing here. Researchers at Princeton tested 10,000 queries to definitively prove what makes an AI cite a brand. And look at this data. Adding relevant expert quotations to your content, that bumps up your AI visibility by 41%. Adding concrete statistics yields a 31% boost. Basically, AI models synthesize answers by hunting for verifiable, discrete pieces of data. But check out that last bar. Legacy keyword stuffing, repeating terms over and over, actually penalizes you, dropping your visibility by 8%. The model understands semantics now. It doesn't care about keyword frequency. And that leads to something genuinely surprising. Just doing fluency optimization alone yields a 28% visibility gain. What does that mean? It means simply improving the readability, the structure, and the overall prose flow of your existing content makes it mathematically easier for a language model to parse and summarize it. So if your writing is dense and convoluted, it's actually working against you, even if your underlying facts are perfectly solid. But here's the catch. There's no one-size-fits-all tactic. You absolutely have to match your strategy to your specific industry vertical. As you can see here, if you're in law and government, the AI engine craves statistics and data-backed claims. If you're publishing on history and culture, quotation edition, bringing in authentic voices is your strongest lever. And for science and health, clarity is king, making fluency optimization your best tool. You really have to understand your domain before you start optimizing.
Moving right along to Section 4, Building Model Perception, Securing Your Entity Authority. Up until now, we've talked mostly about on-page tactics, but I want you to consider this powerful quote from Andreessen Horowitz. We're seeing the emergence of a new kind of brand strategy, one that accounts not just for perception in the public, but perception in the model. Think about that for a second. Imagine abstract data streams and digital nodes all locking into your central corporate logo. That's what you're building. Your brand has to become a verified, trusted node inside the LLM's knowledge graph. How you're encoded into the AI layer? That's your new competitive moat.
Now, if that sounds intimidating, I've got some very reassuring news for you. Looking at this chart, a massive 86% of citations come from sources that you, the brand, already control or heavily influence. We're talking 44% from your own brand websites and 42% from business listings. Yes, the AI is looking for multi-source validation, but it's largely looking in places where you already have the power to shape the narrative. So how exactly do you build this unshakable entity authority? Well, here's your concrete action plan. First, you need to maintain a pristine presence in knowledge graphs like Wikipedia and Crunchbase. Models really ground their facts there. Second, secure third-party validation on review platforms like G2 or industry lists because consensus signals matter. Third, start seeding authentic human signals by showing up genuinely in communities like Reddit. Engines are increasingly mining those for real-world proof. And finally, publish proprietary data reports. Original research basically forces the AI to cite you as the definitive primary source. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Measuring Your AI Visibility, the new KPIs for the C-suite. This is arguably the most critical part for marketing leaders. Since traditional rankings are pretty much dead, how do we measure ROI? Well, the crucial point is that you have to start tracking these 3 sophisticated metrics. First up is position-adjusted word count. This doesn't just tell you if you were mentioned, it measures how prominent and where exactly your citation showed up in the AI's answer. Second is AI share of voice, which tracks your true market dominance across models like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini. And third, perception drift. This is super important because LLMs are dynamic. This metric detects subtle month-over-month shifts in how the AI actually describes your brand, protecting you from miscategorization or a sudden drop in sentiment.
Now, doing this manually, forget about it. That simply won't cut it for enterprise-grade execution anymore. You need purpose-built platforms. Tools leading the charge in 2026 include the LSEO AI platform, Profound, SEMrush One, and Athena HQ. These platforms monitor your brand across engines, they analyze citation sentiment, and they give you the exact competitive intelligence you need to continuously engineer your content for maximum visibility.
All right, which leaves us with one final, pretty profound question to consider for your immediate digital strategy. Is your brand merely a destination, or is it a data source? In a world where AI agents are doing the research on behalf of the user, the brands that win will be the ones that architect their content to be consumed perfectly by the machine. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. It's time to get to work on your generative engine optimization.